Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Friends Talking Nerdy. This is Tim Jousma coming at you solo this Wednesday. For this episode is going to drop on a Wednesday here, and what I have decided to do on my own is to give you another movie review. And the movie review I'm going to be reviewing, if I can use English correctly, is No Time to Die, the very last Daniel Craig James Bond movie. Now, with any James Bond movie, you really can only judge it by four different categories. You gotta judge it based on the quality of the theme song. Generally, the better the theme song, the better the movie. You gotta judge it based on the Bond girls. If they are interesting Bond girls and bring something to the plot, you definitely gotta give it a plus there. If not, a negative. The action sequences, of course, and last but not least, the story. So, kick back, relax. I'm going to kick over to a little musical interlude right now, and then when you hear me come back, I'm going to be giving you a spoilerific review of No Time to Die, so stay tuned. All right, we are back. Thank you all for sticking around here. The movie's complete, and we'll just go down the list like I mentioned. As far as the Bond theme song, Billie Eilish was responsible for this, and my goodness, I did not care for it. Let's put it that way. I'm glad she has an audience, and for everybody out there that does enjoy her, enjoy the hell out of her. Please buy her music and support her work. I'm just not a fan, and that's okay, but that is kind of a one tick against the movie there, because like I mentioned at the brief intro, for a Bond movie, generally the better Bond movies are the ones with the better themes, with the better theme songs. Now, having said that, the score is a different story. The score from Hans Zimmer, his reputation precedes itself, and he kind of channeled back, Hans did, to We Have All the Time in the World from On Her Majesty's Secret Service. So it kind of is a nice little tie-in compared to both of those movies. So I still give the overall music a hit. As far as the theme song itself, it missed me a long time ago, and it was never going to reach me. But the score, really good. As far as the Bond women, I think the one great aspect of the Daniel Craig era is that the women in the Bond movies have had a lot more to do than just look pretty. I mean, as a heterosexual male, I enjoy a beautiful woman just like any other person. But when I'm watching a movie, it's like I want the characters on the screen to mean something. I want to care for the characters, male, female alike. And it's only been just recently that the Bond franchise has really turned a corner. So as far as the women in the film, definitely give it high marks for how they treated them there. As far as the action sequences in the movie, they were pretty good, but they did kind of keep things low-key compared to other Bond movies, so do not expect anything like skiing off of a cliff and having the Union Jack come out as your parachute or something like that. Again, the Daniel Craig era has been kind of known for kind of mimicking the modern action films like your Bourne Identity type of series and whatnot, and they have continued to stick with that, let's say, because again, you have a lot of wild stuff, but it's more grounded in reality compared to previous versions of Bond, if that makes sense. And overall, let's go with the story here. Now, like I mentioned, there's going to be spoilers here, and the big spoiler in all of this is that James Bond died at the end of the movie. That is going to be an interesting thing. Now, one thing to remember is that at the very end credits, it still said James Bond will return. So I have no doubt that we are looking at some sort of a reboot somewhere down the road. And I'm kind of glad they're going the reboot option because, I think one mistake they did make in the heyday of Bond, when they kept Roger Moore around for as long as they did, is that everybody kind of aged around him except for the bad guys and the Bond women. And I like what has happened during the Daniel Craig era in terms of let's bring a few people over from previous eras over, but let's also start fresh in a lot of areas. Now, in some ways, obviously, they had to. For Q, for instance, Desmond Llewellyn is no longer alive, so obviously he could no longer be Q. There needed to be a new Q. But it was also nice to see kind of the nods of the past. They did have like a hallway with a portrait of Judi Dench as M, and it was basically every actor who ever played M had their portrait drawn in there. And a lot of the movie was just really kind of wrapping things up, and which some of it was good, some of it just felt a little forced. Like, did Felix Leiter really have to die the way he did? Because he didn't really have much to do in the story. It was almost like they forgot they had to include Felix, and then just got rid of him as quickly as they could. And also too, one thing I did not care for is the fact that Bond has a daughter. That doesn't really ring true to the Bond character. Now, now people that have seen the movie will argue, well, Tim, he didn't find out he had a daughter until age 5. It was a woman that he was married to at the beginning of the movie, who just happened to be the daughter of Mr. White, I believe, the villain from the first movie. Big coincidence, right? Ended up marrying Bond, and he grew suspicious of her, and then ditched her. Meets up with her again 5 years later and finds out she has a kid and he's the father. And they don't explore it enough. Daniel Craig's Bond is now dead, so they're not going to be able to really explore it again. I mean, unless they go with the old fan theory of the one fan theory I've heard, and one that kind of made sense, is that when they do switch a Bond in the Bond universe, that it's a different it's like the same person, but with like cosmetic surgery or something like that. So maybe they could do something like that for the next Bond film, because there will be another Bond film. Let's not kid ourselves here. That franchise, even in the midst of a pandemic, has made over $600 million worldwide. They are making a new Bond film, and I think with the new 007 that they had in the movie, because James Bond was retired, so they had another agent become 007, and I forgot her character name, and because it's late at night here, but she's definitely a great actress. Definitely take the time to look up her credits. She, I believe, was in Captain Marvel as Monica Rambeau's mother. Yeah, so anyway, she was really good in the film there as the new 007, and they could certainly take the franchise that way. That would definitely be a nice twist. Do I think they're going to go be that bold? Probably not, because you do got to remember back at the start of the Daniel Craig era, people threw a shit fit because Daniel Craig did not have black hair and did not dye his hair for those films. Obviously, the results speak for themselves. The hair color didn't matter. It's the persona, I guess. But they could easily do another 007 with this woman as 007. Do I think they're going to do that? Probably not. I think that's a long shot. More than likely, they're just going to announce a new Bond, and then with this new Bond, kind of shape the franchise around that person. What do I mean by that? When Roger Moore took over the Bond franchise, for instance, the first couple movies still were written with Sean Connery in mind. It wasn't playing to Roger Moore's strengths. It really wasn't until, I believe, The Spy Who Loved Me, where Roger Moore's version of Bond really kind of took over. And I think that's what we'll probably see with the next one. They could always just go back and do like a traditional Bond story, but they can do so much more too. I mean, why not do like a remakes of the original, but do them time period appropriate? I mean, the original books were written in the 50s. Why not have a 1950s era James Bond? Why can't they go crazy and bring Pierce Brosnan back for a film? Have an older James Bond. Have James Bond in the Old West. I mean, it's at this point, because all of Ian Fleming's works have been mined to death, they have to try and do some new things while still sticking with the formula, and I think they can definitely do that. But at the end of the day, overall, this is a movie you want to see. I don't know if it's necessarily one you gotta see in theaters. Obviously with a Bond movie, there is scope that a theater screen is going to have that a regular TV screen will not, but not by much these days, obviously. So take it what you will. I mean, it's no Goldfinger, but it's still a very entertaining film. It's not Moonraker, so definitely give it a watch while it's in theaters. Or if it's out of theaters, buy it and just love on some James Bond, because James Bond is one hell of a movie franchise and a book series. Love those books. But anyway, thank you all for listening, and tune in again next time. Every Wednesday and Saturday, we will have something in this podcast space to entertain your ear holes. Until we meet again, we bid you adieu.
Subscribe to Friends Talking Nerdy on iTunes, the Google Play Music Store, as well as Spotify. Remember to support Friends Talking Nerdy on Patreon. Goodbye, darling.